People ask me sometimes, Casey, why did you stop catching at such a young age? I tell them the reason is because my knees went out. My father would probably tell them it's because I didn't have what it takes up here. Today we're going to talk about that part of the game. How to teach your young catcher to start thinking through a baseball game, to become the field general. And we're going to do it with Russ Dickerson. So stay tuned to Clubhouse Gas. We're fortunate enough now to be joined by Russ Dickerson, and Russ is going to speak with us a little bit about catching. But Russ, what I want to talk about is the mental side of catching. It seems like the majority of major league managers came up as catchers. Catchers are in the game; they have to think.
Right.
When you've got an 11 and 12-year-old catcher, how do you start them on the path of thinking through a baseball game and managing a baseball game?
Well, the first thing you got to do is your catchers have to be able to, if they're going to think as an on-the-field manager, the very first thing they've got to do is they've got to catch all the pitchers that are on your pitching staff. And they've got to learn their tendencies, their little idiosyncrasies, and how their ball moves. Once they've done that for a period of time, now when they go out onto the field, in my case, because I'm a 13-year-old travel coach, I let my catchers call the game. They know the strengths and weaknesses of all of our pitchers and what they can and cannot do. And therefore, if I ever want to overrule them, I might, whistle their name, or I'll have them look at me and I'll give them a particular sign. But I want them to learn each hitter's strengths, learn their pitcher's strength, and then call the game. Manage the baseball game for me, because my responsibility is I'm not only the pitching coach, the catching coach, I'm also the third base coach, and I'm trying to think a little bit ahead of myself, and therefore it takes a little bit off my plate. But the catchers need to learn that, because as they get to high school, into college, into the minor leagues, more and more of that responsibility is going to be pushed onto them, so that the sooner they learn it, the better off they are. It's just no different than us going to school. The sooner we learn things, the better off we are to advance to the next level.
And that really is what separates a good catcher from a great catcher. It's not throwing the ball. It's not being nimble behind the plate and stopping. It's being able to handle the staff.
I'll give you a good example. The best example that I can think of right now is Jason Varitek. Is he a phenomenal hitter? No, he's an average hitter. But what is his strengths? What do the guys look for him? He's the captain of their baseball team. They look to him because he knows his pitchers, he knows his staff, he knows everybody's ins and outs. And therefore, he manages basically the ball club. I mean, Francona is a manager, but Varitek kind of manages that team within itself, and he manages that staff. He knows how to calm guys down. He knows how to get guys up. He knows how to stick their foot up a rear end when it needs to be done. And he manages that because he's grown up with that responsibility, and it started probably as early as high school, and it carried all its way through.
Now, when you've got a, you say you're a 13-year-old travel coach, when you get to a catcher who's not done it before, he's not called a game before, how do you introduce him to it? Do you just throw him in there and say, go after it, or do you maybe give him a hitter here?
What we did this year, because I've got 3 new catchers this year on my spring team, we started the process in the fall. I started out calling the game, and then each week I would lessen my number of calls and let them call more pitches. And by the end of the fall season, I was calling nothing. I didn't trump them. I didn't call them off a pitch. I let them call the entire game. Now, they come in the dugout, I say, hey, you did a great job this inning. Or if we made a mistake somewhere, I would try to teach them, say, hey, here's the mistake we made. Here's how we're going to correct it. And then the next time. And I tell them what tendencies to look for with a hitter. I mean, if you have a hitter standing up there and he's got a bat that's laid off, we want to pitch inside. So I try to tell them, here's what I want you to see at the plate, and when you see that, call the game according to it. If I've got a guy who can't throw the ball inside, then we don't want to just keep throwing the ball inside and go ball, ball, ball. Let's move the ball back over to the other side of the plate. Now, if he gets locked in there, that's where we're going to stay. Understanding your staff, understanding where they're locked in that day. Just like pitchers. Pitchers don't have all their pitches every day. They might only have 2. Go with those 2. That's what I've got today.
And how has it affected your pitchers, knowing that the catcher is the one calling the game? Do they have a little less confidence, or a little maybe even more confidence?
The pitchers are very relaxed because they know that the process is completely out of their hands. They know they have one job: throw strikes. If the catcher calls fastball and says inside, they've got one job: find the target, throw that pitch to that target, and that's the end of it.
Well, Russ, we really appreciate it.
Thank
you so much. That's going to do it for us today. We'll see you right back here tomorrow for another great edition of Clubhouse Gas.